1, 2, 3, 4.
Very warm welcome to CEO Reflects. I'm Tony Wood from COCF, and I'm really grateful to be joined by Neliya, who's Head of Talent and Culture at Dreamix. A very warm welcome.
Hi, Tony. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really hope that our conversation will be valuable and interesting for everybody who will listen to it. So I was thinking just to share a bit about my onboarding journey in Dreamix. So how I started in my company, because I think it's really related to what we will discuss afterwards about the culture. So I remember that I had, I think, 6 meetings, 6 interviews in the beginning. And I was like fascinated how I really liked all of these people that I was meeting with. And I was like, wow, these will be the people that I'll be working with. And everything that they were telling me about the company, I completely loved it. And I was like, there should be something. I think when I started, I found out it couldn't be that perfect as it sounds, to me. And I started in the company. I was lucky to start in Dreamix. And then a few months after, I was like, okay, so everything was real. These people are amazing. And like 3 years after, we continue hiring that cool and amazing people. So I should be very lucky.
I think that's wonderful to have that experience just in the interview phase. Sounds amazing. So now when you've been at Dreamix for a while, when you look back, were there any turning points in the company's growth, periods where it changed?
Yeah, like from my perspective, like the turning point is not really a revenue number. So I think it's the moment when you realize that growth is not only about having bigger customers and revenue, and it's also about structuring better. We started speaking about processes, which was a word which we didn't use before. So, like it was the moment when intuition was not enough for our discussions and things that we needed to do. So we needed to start building processes, and not like because you want bureaucracy, but because you want clarity, like who decides what, so how work flows. And that's the moment I think you start building bigger organization, not building only teams. So for me, this was really turning point.
It's really interesting. So what was it, the growth that you were chasing, or did that happen organically?
I think in the first years of Dreamix, for sure, it was being chased, because it was like in the beginning you're in a survival mode, and then later growth because like more opportunity driven, like you see new capabilities, new markets, bigger companies, and so on. But eventually, I think growth is gives you maturity and also responsibilities, because you need to give more opportunities to your people, like to give them opportunities to grow. And also you need to be very stable partner to your clients. So growth, I think, becomes something that you need to manage really carefully with the time.
Was there a point where you realized, oh, hang on, we're not a small company anymore?
I think actually this is the moment when you realize that not everyone knows everyone. So this is the moment when you realize, so we are not a small company anymore. And you start hearing questions like, who decides that? And which department is responsible for that? Because, in the beginning, you have one person responsible for the marketing, the HR and operations. So when you start hearing questions like this, you realize that you've passed this threshold and you're a bigger company.
And when you were growing, when the company was getting larger, when or was there a period where your culture was tested, where, hang on a minute, we've reached a certain point, it started to change?
Yes, for sure. Like with the growth, the culture is being tested for sure, because I think it's easy to maintain your culture in easy periods. But in Dreamix, our culture is not only words, it's actions. So in difficult periods, really our culture was tested. I can even give an example because
Please.
we've had in the beginning of last year actually an example like this. It was extremely difficult period for the company, and we had like more than 10% from our people on the bench. Even though it was extremely difficult, we didn't. I mean, we never made these like layoffs, or we never dismiss somebody in the company if this person doesn't have a project. We feel responsible for this, and we take care. So like the sales department, the marketing, they find new leads, so this person is having a project soon. So this is one of the examples that I've seen our culture, that we really take care of our people, that this has been tested. You hear for a lot of companies that they make these huge layoffs and stuff like that. So but we didn't do it. So it's one of the moments, and we had several, and I feel really proud in these moments that we have a culture like this.
That's amazing, the integrity as a company. Were there aspects of the culture which were fragile and aspects which were just easier? They just stayed without being nourished, as it were.
Yeah, as I've mentioned, like our culture is actions. So I think, of course, you need to take care a lot about it, but we are really used to do it. So it was easy to maintain our values because they are like incorporated in our hiring process, in our feedback, in our performance reviews. So it shows the culture, who you hire, like who you retain, who you dismiss, who you reward. So it's really, you can see it every day in your work. So it was something that we maintain every day. Of course, there are things I would say that are really fragile. I think when the company grows, we should be even more focused on transparency. For example, I had moments that I think that my company is super transparent. And then I hear feedback from the people that we should be even more. And I was like, what? Oh my God. But it's true. When the company gets bigger, the complexity gets bigger. So we need to be even more transparent for everything, like for the strategy, for the goals, also for the mistakes. Like to say if we made a mistake, and to be transparent. So this is something that could be fragile. And another thing is, I think, the belonging, because
Mm.
when the company is getting bigger, the belonging is not something that is happening naturally anymore. So you need to foster this, you need to find ways to make everybody feeling part of this community. Doesn't matter from which country you are working. So this is also something that we are paying much more effort comparing with before. So the people have this sense of belonging.
I really like that. How do you make it tangible for people rather than just a word like belonging or we have a culture? How do you make it tangible for people so when new people join, it isn't just a buzzword, it's something that is there that they can literally touch, as it were?
Yes, that's an amazing question, actually. I think in the beginning with stories, but with real stories, like for the people that just joined the company or decide to join it, like stories about how Dreamix was founded, how did we grow from 2 to 300. So all of these amazing stories that we love. But after this, of course, this is not enough. This is enough to feel that this is a great company and to start your journey here. But afterwards, of course, you need to show these actions to show the people that this is real. Like my first months in Dreamix, like I've seen this. So this is happening, as I've mentioned, with actions. The people need to see the examples that everyone in the company is approachable, that who we hire in the company, how do we maintain the culture. Because, for example, when we make these interviews with new people joining the company, we have two stages of the interview. The first part is called cultural interview. So we are actually, of course, we get to know the person and we share stories about Dreamix, but we really want to know if this person will be a cultural fit for our company or not. And doesn't matter the technical expertise this person has. If they don't have this cultural fit, we simply don't hire this person.
How do you, if I may, how do you define that in an interview? I mean, do you have like a checklist or is it just a feeling? How do you figure out if someone will belong?
Of course, should be something a bit measurable. Sometimes you have this gut feeling, yeah, like you mentioned, but we have, of course, we have our ways to do that. We ask questions related to our values. Like, for example, one of the Dreamix values is proactivity. So we really want to see if this person was proactive in his previous experience.
Mm.
So we ask questions. For example, did you suggest something? If you see that there is a need for improvement, did you suggest this? Or some questions related to see if this person was proactive. Or another value that we want to see and to check is really important for us, like strive for mastery. So we really want to see if this person is a continuous learner, so if he wants to grow it. So we have questions related to that. But if I need to go back, I mean, this is one of the examples like how we hire the cultural fit. But afterwards, when the person passes his their 6 months in the company, there is like a performance review with questions related again to these values that we also want to check if this person is still maintaining these. So these are just few examples about
So a few things are skill based or can be judged by their skill or their ability to maintain skills, but it seems a lot are tied to behaviors that they exhibit. Is that like a key pillar of your culture, the behaviors that people have, or are there any other pillars along that?
It's really important. One of the first examples, like when Dreamix was founded, like the six founders, they really wanted to work in a company that they feel like working with friends, in
Mm,
a really nice atmosphere. So this is something that we really want to maintain even now. So these behavior checks, like you said, we are really trying to see if this person will contribute to our amazing atmosphere. And because what is really important is that the people feel good at work, to be motivated to do all of the excellent stuff that they do.
so a lot of that is about how they feel and your connection with them as well. Interesting.
It's rare.
How has this? I'm speaking now a little bit about your leadership skills or the leadership skills of the company. How has that changed between, say, 10, 100, or several hundred?
Yeah, I think that in the beginning, it should have been quite easy because like all of the C levels, they're just direct leaders to everybody in the company. And then they needed to hire new leaders
Mm,
that will lead more teams and so on. And in the end, when the company is like 100 plus, the initial leaders should be like the architects, just to
right.
show the way to all of the leaders in the company. So I really believe that this skill set is unique, but also really adaptive. Because if you're not flexible or adaptive during these times, you'll not be able to adjust yourself to these new needs, let's say, that everybody in the company have.
Interesting, because they adapt and grow as the company grows in scale. And did that lead that to any problems? Maybe some stories, some things that are people who are watching, listening can learn from, what to watch out for?
Yes, maybe something that I would say that the leadership skills that we have now, all of the leadership levels in the company, we are really focused to support them and to grow because every year the leadership skills need to change.
Mm.
You need to adapt because everything is, especially with AI, like everything is changing so fast. So you need to adapt your leadership set of skills, which is not really easy. So this is something that I would say I believe should be focused to all of the leaders and companies. Something else that I really believe in is like clarity. Like when you're growing and you're setting goals and strategy, doesn't matter if it's a department goal or a team or a company, you need to give like clarity to the people how to achieve that, right? And really, yeah, the transparency, I'm convinced that should be on a higher level, to be really open to these people, because I believe they really appreciate it and they are even more motivated afterwards.
And what was one of the things that your leaders and yourself underestimated as you were scaling? You thought, oh, that will be fine, and suddenly it was a big deal. Thing that we can look out for as we scale.
I would, yeah, I would say we are pretty adaptive. We see this, we try to react on time, but yeah, the thing with the processes, I think is a big thing for us, because in some moment when you have a company and that you really want to maintain this culture and to maintain the autonomy of the people, not to have micromanagement and so on. In some moment, you need to have a bit more structure. So we started thinking about processes just to make our work easier, not for the sake of process itself, like to have to say, ah, we are a big corporation and so on.
I love that as a point. I'd love. Is there a distinction you could let us know between structure, processes, which can be helpful, and micromanagement? Because sometimes they can be seen together. One is that makes me feel good. Working for the company, I can do things. Another says, yeah, I feel like I'm just a robot here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I had an experience in my previous companies that we had so many processes that actually it's killing your creativeness. Like you just follow these processes and then you did your job. So this is something that for sure we don't want to have, never ever, like in Dreamix. So what we did, like just to give a practical example, like we made a group of head of different departments,
Mm-hmm.
and we started these internal processes meetings to try to define where we really need the process in order to make the work in our people, like to make our everyday life at work easier, more effective, faster, you know, not to kill our autonomy, but to really help us be more effective, and not to have a process just because we need to have processes, you know. So we are really strict, and we started initiating these processes which are making our everyday life much easier, actually.
And that's really nice. So, look, this has been an amazing time. I've learned so much from you. Thank you. What would you leave our audience with? What one piece of advice would you leave our audience with?
Yeah, it's really important that I think everybody heard this, so it's not something, it's not a surprise. But I'm convinced that it's really important with who you're working every day, and to be really careful, because this can change your life, really, like the way you feel every day, but also the people that you work with every day can give great contributions to your life for the next year. So I think everybody should be really careful and paying attention here, because
I love that.
it's really
Nella,
important.
thank you so, so much. And thank you for your time and for joining us here at CF Reflects.
Thank you, Tony. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.